All right, hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast. I am Michael, and I am joined tonight with Brad, who you may know as Force and Destiny on Twitter. And we are going to do our second attempt at doing an unboxing video. I'm still having the same internet issues. Currently, we're green, so hopefully that means we're good. Even if the stream fails or starts looking wonky, we're going to power through, and then I'll just upload it to YouTube. So Brad, say hello to everyone.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
So you and I both backed it's not new at this point, it's now fulfilled Kickstarter for the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition Deluxe box. You've had yours for a while now. I got mine. It was like one of the very last ones, and then I've also held on to it because of the move and wanting to do an unboxing video. But what's your history with Savage Worlds?
So my history with Savage Worlds, I guess, goes back to Deadlands, back when it was first edition. So a lot of first edition things from Deadlands carried over to Savage Worlds and what became second, the Deadlands Reloaded system. I think the first actual Savage Worlds game that was, in the new Savage Worlds that I played was with you, actually. It was like I can't remember the guy's name who ran it, but it was we were like Alice in Wonderland. Did you recall that?
I know exactly who you're talking about. I also cannot remember the name. I think it's like Jeff or James. It's James something.
Yes, James.
Yeah.
It was in your basement, and it was a ton of fun. And I remember doing terrible things with a bag full of Molotov cocktails, and it was a blast.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes, it was.
All right. So I too started Deadlands back. This was in college. So that's like 20, maybe 25 years ago for this point for me. So this was the original Deadlands, not part of Savage Worlds. But when Savage Worlds was created, they kind of rolled into one. And then really the next time I played it was in fact same thing. It was in my basement with James. He ran two different adventures for us, I believe, or maybe I'm combining them, but
no, I think you're right.
Because one was like a typical fantasy. We had like lizard men and we went down in like a sewers and got an item. And I thought it was pretty cool. And like I've played it several times since then, and every time I play it, I'm like, this was pretty cool. We ran a short Deadlands campaign-ish back when the podcast first started. It wasn't recorded, so it never made it to the air, but we were toying with doing that, and I really enjoyed that. So Deadlands is kind of what I've done most with the system. But I'm hoping to do more, especially with the new edition. I bought the East Texas University, I guess, expansion or campaign guide, whatever that is, and I'm hoping to do a couple one-shots of that. I also bought a module for it so I can use that to run. So hopefully with the patrons as well as maybe with faculty, that'll be something that we do soon. Yeah. So with that out of the way, go ahead.
I was gonna say other stuff. I ran I ran some Savage World home games here. I ran a Rifts Savage Rifts game, which I believe I tried to run that for you guys that once on. I don't know if I don't think it was recorded or whatnot. It might have been a field trip. Don't remember.
I did. It was it was two of us. Was it?
Oh yeah. You needed more than two.
Yeah, but I still remember that was actually one of my favorite things I've ever done in a game. I had some crazy recoil thing. It was basically a disadvantage that when I shot my gun, there was a chance that it would throw me backwards like 100 feet.
Your boom cannon.
Yeah, and I ended up climbing on top of a mech and shooting straight down, and intentionally failed that so that it would throw me in the air away from the blast, which was in fact pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So I'm going to go ahead and move my keyboard out of the way. I don't see anybody joining us currently, so I don't think I need to chat with anybody, but I can always move it back. And again, game table, I don't know if you can see. I wanted so much for this to be 100% done before we got started tonight, but I just ran out of time. So these two rails are done. As you can see, this one is still foam top, and there's one underneath the camera you can't see. So 2 of the 4 rails are done. Once those other two are done, it's good to go. And I think it looks good on camera. It's like actually a little fuzzy in person, but the camera doesn't pick that up, so I think it looks nice. And then I have my side up a little higher to give it a little tilt, so hopefully the camera will pick up stuff on it a little better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So the only thing I've done is I have actually opened the box because, again, if anyone follows me on Twitter, there was an adventure with me getting this box. I was watching it go between Cincinnati and Georgia 3 times back and forth. So 6 stops, 3 and 3 for some reason before it got actually sent to me. So I was a little worried it might have got damaged in shipping. So I opened the box just to make sure there was nothing that looked too hinky. I didn't see anything, put everything back. So this will be pretty much a new experience for me. Brad has already looked at his, so as we get into stuff I might be exploring, he can go into a little bit more detail about what I'm looking at and what it is. All right, so let's do this. Dun, 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 dun. Packing peanuts, always a good time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so right here on top is the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition role-playing game core booklet. Again, this is pretty much the game. Like, there's going to be some other fiddly bits, but this is pretty much all you need.
That's the core book, not the special edition book.
Correct. Now, are you familiar with like what sort of changes were made between this and the last edition?
Yeah, they've made some changes as far as streamlining some things. They've gotten rid of the charisma. It was kind of a combination stat that would give you pluses or minuses to your charm or persuasion rolls, bluffs, things like that. And they've taken those modifiers and they've kind of rolled them into to give the GM more leeway to go kind of +4 or -4 for things, up to +4 -4. They made some changes too to skills. Everybody gets there are several I guess they're like core skills that you have, things like athletics and common knowledge and things that previously you didn't get to start out with. You start with a D4 in a lot of those skills, which I think was a really good change.
Okay. So just flipping through the book, it's very good looking, nice thick paper, a lot of art. I've already noticed a couple pieces of art that are very suspiciously lifts from other popular media. I'm sure they are non-copyright infringement versions, but there is an image. Where is it? Oh, I flipped through and I saw it. I'll find it. Oh, come on, because it was a good one. I wanted to show it off. All right, tell me something else while I'm looking.
Let's see what else have they done. They've come out with some new chase rules that I haven't had a chance to play around with yet, but they're supposed to. Feedback I've seen from other people who have played with them says they're really neat. Another thing they've done is they've changed the amount of skills that you start with, and they've revamped the power system. Like the power system in ways now that you can freely choose to add modifiers to powers. Like you can spend additional power points to get additional effects for things.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a neat little thing. Like if you really, you want to bring up that really big like armor piercing bolt, but it's not something you do all the time. You can spend extra power points and get it,
All
as
right.
opposed to previously where you would have to, it would have to be a heavy weapon,
Okay.
heavy weapon quality.
All right, so I found it, and in looking for it, I found another one. So, again, anyone who wants to play along eventually, and I know you won't be able to see it on my screen, but on page 48, there is very clearly an image of the bride from the Kill Bill movie fighting the Crazy 88 gang. It's the female wearing that Bruce Lee tracksuit in a
Nice.
disco. And then on page 81, this is very clearly a Stranger Things homage where it's a bunch of kids on bikes, and there's very clearly the smoke monster mind flayer thingy up in the sky over here. So if you've watched Stranger Things season 3, spoilers, this is very clearly an homage to that. There's probably the other ones that I'm looking at that I just don't recognize are probably also homages just to things that I'm not familiar with.
One thing about the book that I really do like, it's something that I hadn't seen in a role playing book before the original Dresden Files game came out, is where they would have notes written in the side, the margins of the pages from characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like characters in that universe discussing things about the rules. Well, I do something very similar here with this book, which I don't know. I just enjoy it. Take a look at page 22. You have a picture here of Gabe, who is one of the two characters, Gabe and Red, who are like, I guess, the iconic characters in the book. And it just talks about how he always plays Gabe and whatnot. It's written by the GM, which you get into later in the book. Just that kind of stuff. I think that's always, a touch above and beyond as far as it goes with production value for things. And as far as it goes for the book, I was really impressed with it. I thought it was rather solid.
Yeah, I just flipping through it. I'm excited to get this bad boy to the table. Let's just hope that can happen. All right, let's get into some more stuff here. All right, so the next thing is a priority envelope inside of another box. I'm going to guess this is the deluxe version of the book.
Yes, it is.
All righty, so this is I'm going to guess this is also faux leather. I doubt it's actual leather. But it's got this like stitching, makes like a rectangular. It's hard to see on my camera, and it's got these sort of stud bolts. Got these brass corner covers. This is a cool looking book. Now, the inside is exactly the same. Is there any differences other than I see on the front? There's a place for signatures from the designers.
The only other difference I've noticed are the tassels that you'll find in the page for page markers. I love those things. They are very nice, super handy. I have tons of bookmarks. They may or may not be some of a Catacon bookmarks that I keep in my books, just to bookmark different pages. And there's a series of tassels in there that you can, quick mark pages to flip back and forth for things you might use. This book reminds me of a lot of the old special edition books that they came out with for 3.5. I don't know if anyone in your groups had any of those, Michael, but it was very similar. That same kind of faux leather cover to it, and it just, when I saw it, it just brought back some nostalgia for because that was one of the really early games that I really got into. And played a long campaign, lots and lots of hours.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about this because this is the one that will go in my collection, and then I have one that I can put into the Catacon library. So if you come to a Catacon in like 3.5 weeks from now, you'll be able to.
Oh my god!
Oh, I know. I'm freaking out. We'll be able to play it. So I love the camera shooting at me this angle, but I can already tell I'm going to have to add a top-down camera for some of this stuff because it's just not showing as well as I had hoped. All right, I'm going to see if I can dig in here without getting too many packing peanuts on my table because I'm sure those are hard to get off.
Studio 2 did a great job of including tons and tons of packing peanuts to protect the product.
All right, let me dig in here, see if there's anything else in the box.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. All right, let me get rid of this. Maybe it'll give us some more. It'll take me a sip here. There we go. Righty. So this is the Adventure Edition, basically the deluxe box set, which doesn't include the book because the book came separately. On the back, we get a kind of a quick peek at all some of the cool stuff we're going to see. But again, you can't quite see that, so I'm going to have to show it better. But Brad will explain it a little bit. So I'm going to take my knife here and open her up. Dun, dun, dun. So this is actually what they're, according to the text on the box, this is the Savage Worlds Essentials boxed set.
Mm-hmm.
I was calling it the Deluxe.
Lots and lots of goodies.
Alrighty. So the cover art, I remember seeing, this is art from what's inside the book at some point. It's a female, looks like a makes me think of like a what's it, Shadowrun Street Samurai. Alrighty, let's open her up here. All right, so the first thing we have on top looks like an art print of that same cover art.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a collector of art, you can put this on your wall in your game room, posterize it. All right, so now we got a bunch of stuff here.
There's a lot in the box.
So I'm going to start with whatever these are, these little disc wheels.
Okay.
So what are these?
So those are counters, like for PowerPoints or turn-based effects, but generally I think they go up to like 25 on the wheel, and you can give them to your players, particularly like your mages, or if you're playing a superhero game, your superheroes or whoever, and they can just keep track of their power points as they use cat to use their abilities.
Oh,
Or if you've got a status effect, like I put timers on things a lot when I run, and in general I use dice and flip them up and down around. But with a little wheel, it'd just be handy to just click, click, click over to the next one.
yeah, these are pretty nifty. So they're basically two pieces of cardboard held together with a little stud, and they go from 1 to 20. So you could also use them for Magic the Gathering counters, or maybe even hit points in D&D until you get to have a level. But yeah, these are kind of nifty. I like them, and there's 5 in there. So for most games, DM plus 5 is about max size. So there's plenty of those. So that's a nifty little thing. I like that. Alrighty. So I'm actually going to try something. So bear with me for just a minute here.
What's he gonna do? And he's
So I have a secondary camera that I use for like when I'm just podcasting and all you need to see is my face. So I'm going to see if I can actually switch to that for a second. Oh, there we go. And maybe show some things off a little more clearly. So you can see the Savage Worlds cardboard disc, stud in the middle.
Back a little bit.
And the counter just spins around here. All the different numbers. Awesome. All right. Now, so did you try to put everything back in the box the same way it came out?
Yep.
Or
it all fits.
Okay. Because I'm kind of meticulous like that, but I could also see me just going, you know what, screw it, and just maybe throwing everything in the box. Let's see here. Yeah, see that already is not fitting the way it was when I got it. That's gonna bug me. All right, so we'll do that later. Okay.
So what's your first impression as you open the box?
It's a well put together package. I can see there's 3 sets of cards here on top. Adventure deck, power cards, status cards. Then there's a bit of an oversized action deck. So I'll go ahead and pull this one out. So I'm going to guess these are the playing cards that you can use for initiative in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I will look at those a little bit closer. Now, is there stuff below here? Does this come out and there's even more stuff below? Okay, because it seems like, if not, it was a lot of wasted space, so that makes me happy.
No, there's definitely stuff below.
All right, we got a set of dice, which is cool. So we got 4 custom D6s. I guess these are like the wild die, maybe. And then just a sort of a black and gold 6-piece set of, what are we missing? 4, 6, 8. There's just 1 of each, so there's no second D10, which is why it's only 6. All right, cool. I'm trying to get these out. Aha! So these are the poker chips, bennies. Savage Worlds uses a lot of tokens. Try not to damage these. They look pretty. Oh.
Yeah. I was happy with them there. I thought they were nice quality, and it was, I like poker chips. So
well, as you know, I do too.
Oh yeah, really.
Oh, all right, cool. So on the front side, they all say Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. So let me switch here. But on the back, this one it looks sort of like a World on Fire logo. Again, I know that camera's not great.
Mm-hmm.
This one has like a sword icon. Here's a skull. This one's probably a little easier. Oh. Yeah. That's kind of cool. So, was there 30 of these?
I don't recall the exact number.
I'm already failing miserably. I was trying to use some of my old poker skills and stacking up the chips. Looks like 25. Yep, 25. Which again, if you have a party of 5, and then you also, if you're using them as bennies, the GM of the game also gets some for the bad guys. So I'd say 25 is probably a suitable number for all of those.
Number of bennies equal to each player, and some for the wild cards.
All right. Go ahead and open up this action deck just because I've already moved it. So again, if you're not familiar with Savage Worlds, it uses as, I guess this is like what you're supposed to do, but you don't have to. But it's based on using a deck of cards for initiative. This again. So this is basically a deck of cards. On one side you have the logo, some art, the action deck, and on the back we have like a vampire, like Blade, Buffy knockoff, priest with a water squirter. I'm going to guess there's holy water in there. So it looks like the foil cards, so Jack and Up, have artwork on them. This is a very much, actually I think this is Flash Gordon, because don't they have a license for that?
They do. There's a license for Flash
So
Gordon.
that's going to be Ming the Merciless, an actual Flash Gordon. The other one is, well, that looks very clearly like Ash from Evil Dead.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar with, is that Mum-Ra? Sort of a Mum-Ra knockoff?
I don't know.
Then here we got like a Conan. Again, I'm guessing they have a Conan license. It's very clearly Conan. And then we have our 2 Jokers. The Jokers play an important role when you. So while I'm fiddling, you explain how initiative works with cards.
Sure. So you get a number of cards based on your rank. In Savage Worlds, you have several different ranks: novice, seasoned, veteran, heroic, and legendary. And for each rank you are, you get a number of action cards. And there are certain there are certain like edges you can get where you get multiple cards. And the way it works is you count down in order through the cards, in from you start at ace, work your way down in reverse alphabetical order, and you get an action or you get a turn rather for each card that you have.
I think it doesn't start at king, because aren't aces the best?
Well, honestly, for Savage World Adventure Edition, I'm not 100% sure.
Well, no, you start, because ace is high, so you do start with ace and count down. I was thinking, I said the right thing, but I was wrong because I was backwards. So this has like a little, just space holder to, I guess these cards aren't as thick as the box that they're in. But these are labeled status cards. They all have the same art on the back, which is female warrior with a lion that kind of looks like Aslan from the Narnia books. And so looking at the cards here, I got a whole bunch of stacked. These are wounded cards. And it looks like at the bottom it actually has the rules for if you're wounded. Then we have a bunch that are for shaken, which if you've played Savage Worlds, this is something you probably dealt with a lot.
It's a common occurrence.
All right, then we got a bunch of fatigue cards. Just a few distracted, not as many as those. Vulnerable. Entangled. Bound. Probably could do a better job of actually showing off the artwork. Stunned. Hold. Then one for aim and one for defend. Got some bugs and gnats flying around my head starting to bother me.
I had not opened my status cards.
Okay.
That was interesting.
So basically these are the things that, like, if your character is vulnerable, you can just, or as the DM, you have a player that is, you can hand them the vulnerable card. It lets them know what the rules are. It's a reminder that they are in fact vulnerable. So that's kind of a neat thing. Like this is a sort of thing that they come with the set. I probably would use them, but this isn't something I would probably have bought. Like just if it's something that's on its own. But I am the type of person that probably would make my own if I decided I wanted them. So this is kind of cool. I like those. All right. So next up is our power cards. So have you looked at these yet?
I haven't opened any of those.
No. Oh, ooh. So this is a first for both of us.
No, I spent more time reading the book.
Oh yeah, you're one of those people. All right. So same thing. We got the little spacer there. We have the looks like the same artwork on all the back, which is looks like a female with the very clear finger to the temple and the Charles Xavier School of Mental Abilities, fighting what looks sort of like a Bane, sci-fi Bane type character. All right, and then basically these are spell cards for Savage World. So there's a whole bunch of them right now. They're in alphabetical order, including Arcane Protection, Mind Wipe, Relief, Resurrection, Telekinesis. So in this one, you can see on the far left there is a rank. So this card is Arcane Protection. It's a novice spell. Again, I don't know if you can read that, but it's there in that little red thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
It includes the power points that it costs to cast it, the range, and the duration, and of course gives you the mechanical rules of casting that spell. And then at the bottom, there's an additional recipient's modifier and how you would affect that. So if you're, I love D&D spell cards. I bought a set of those, and I find them very invaluable. Especially, I run a lot of one-shots for teaching new people how to play. So if someone's playing a wizard or a cleric, it's great to have them. So I would say these are probably going to be just as effective and beneficial for someone who wants to play a powered character in Savage Worlds. So generally, how do powers work? Like I know there's a particular thing that we both like about them. So while I'm digging, talk about that.
So powers work. You get an arcane background, and that is something like either you're a mage, or you could have miracles, which is like you're a divine character of some type. There's weird science, like you are an alchemist or a mad science inventor. And anyway, each arcane background you select, you get a number of powers that you get to choose from. When you select these powers, you pick what's called trappings for your powers. So, say I pick bolt or whatever for one of my arcane powers, and I choose a trapping. I want to shoot firebolt. So every time I would cast that spell, it has the fire trapping associated with it, and you can't change your trappings once you select them unless you choose to relearn that power. There are some edges that allow you to kind of change trapping on the fly. So.
All right. Yeah, that's one of the things I do really like about the way it works, because I'm just someone who I'm pro reskinning. So again, going back to D&D, just because that's what I play the most of, but I love to reskin and reflavor spells. So fireball can be ice ball or acid ball or whatever, or just force ball. I'm a big fan of doing that. I think it's a great way to make spellcasters feel unique. Without really messing with the mechanics too much. And that's really baked into Savage Worlds, where the trappings are what the trappings are, but they basically all the spells work the same way. So it's once you know them, you kind of know them, and which is, again, kind of Savage Worlds thing is about the fast, fun, furious play. It builds into the fast aspect when you don't have to spend so much time trying to figure out how spells work individually. Once you kind of know how they work, you kind of know how they work.
Yeah, one other benefit about those power cards is there's not a lot of space on the character sheet, the official character sheet, for you to include information about spells and trappings. So that really comes in handy to have those cards.
All right. So let me switch back to my other camera here. So these are the adventure deck. So again, we have all the same art on the back, which looks to be like a woman. Kind of reminds me of like a Walking Dead scenario. Actually, she is dressed kind of like Rick Grimes. She's out in the snow. There's a skeleton around her. So yeah, definitely a zombie feel to it. And what these are, because I read it while you were talking, these are an optional thing that you don't have to do. But basically, you deal one of these out to each player based on their rank So again, if they're a novice, they get one. If they're a veteran, they get more. But they can only play one of them. They just get more options to choose from, and they just give you sort of an advantage or something that you can do in particular. So just like flipping through, here's one: contact. Your hero finds a friend or acquaintance who helps them in the current situation. Get a clue. Play this card to get advice from the game master on how to resolve the current predicament or problem. So bennies obviously are a Savage World thing to start with, but that's sort of like one-time use, semi-random because you're getting dealt out each time. Benefits that you can use just to put a little twist on that particular character or that particular scene. I think these are kind of cool, though I think I would rather like over time, I would want my characters to maybe get the same ones repeatedly, just so it's sort of like my thing is that I can get a clue, or my thing is that I can always have contacts. So maybe a little bit less random, but I still like the once a use power.
Sort of like their one unique thing.
Yeah, that would be a good analog to that.
Yeah, I used them in my Deadlands campaign that I ran, and they came in. It was definitely an element of chaos because sometimes they're, one of the players had one where they threw it out, and it was in this large like showdown, and it was like unexpected enemy, and it's like I want an unexpected enemy right now, and it actually came out to their. It worked to their advantage because their nemesis happened to show up because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
And it turned out to their advantage because the party that he was actually enemies with the party they were fighting. So it kind of took some heat off the player characters and helped them to, at least be able to survive that fight.
Very cool. All right. So we're going to dig into the second level now. Dun, dun, dun.
So are we going down to go up a level?
Yes, we are going down to go up a level. That makes no sense. Alrighty. So we'll start with these. I think are spell templates, correct?
They are the templates that you use for Savage Worlds. They're the medium burst template, small burst template, large burst template, and the cone template.
All right, yeah. So again, I don't know how this is going to show. It's basically a transparent disc, but there's like large in a ring, medium in a ring, small in a ring. So if you're using the game and you're playing minis, you can sort of figure out, okay, this is where the spell is cast. It bursts from there. Small, medium, large, who all would be affected. Mm-hmm. And then there's one here for the cone as well. So you would put it on your character, aim it around, and you can see who's in the line of fire.
Yeah, one thing about Savage Worlds is they highly recommend the use of the minis. It definitely does add to that fast, furious fun part of it, in that, it's easy to tell who's up, who's down. And characters that are down or laid on their side are not, they're not removed from the fight. They're characters who are shaken or things like that. It really helps. They also don't require use of grids because everything it's given in inches for tabletop. So if you want, you can get on your old school war game type and just break out the rulers and go that way with your your non-gridded spaces.
All right. So these are cool. So these are basically 2 double-sided cheat sheets. Mm-hmm. So combat options, power modifiers, vehicles, chases. So probably some of the rules that are either more complicated or less used. The only thing I would say is I wish there were like 4 or 5 copies of these, so you could hand them out so it's not just one. But very cool. I like these sorts of things. I think something box sets should include are cheat sheets for the things that people usually get wrong. All right, so I don't know what these are. These are almost look like tickets.
Bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Ah, okay. So these are also sort of cheat sheets, but also bookmarks. So I've got wounds, raise calculation, common ranged attack modifiers, common states, which are distracted, fatigued, shaken, vulnerable. All right, cool. So it's just some of the art that we've already seen before. Each book, so there's 4 of them. They have 4 different cheat sheets on the back. So
the one thing I've done with that is I've given them to my players and said, hey guys, if we have a rules question, here's your bookmark. You're responsible for the rules on your bookmark here. read them. If it comes up, I don't know it, I'm going to look to you for clarification. So I don't have to take time during the game away to look up the rule. I expect, you kind of to be able to help me out with that.
Very, very cool.
And you know what? And if they do it and do a good job of them, I'll flip them a Benny.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All right. So, but yeah, it's very difficult to get these little sleeves back on the bookmarks. There we go. So it looks like we did have one person that has joined. I don't know if you're here on purpose or you just stumbled across this, but welcome. We're doing an unboxing of the Savage Worlds Essentials Kit. All right. So the next thing here, a bunch of punch tokens. So I'll switch over here.
Tokens for all the effects.
So again, so we have shaken, aim, wounded, hold, distracted. The color on these are actually very vibrant. They almost look like 3D in a way. They like the art images that kind of have a depth to them, which is kind of neat. They're not just flat at all. And I will share too much here. I get a very palpable satisfaction for punching punch cards. Like I'm not going to say sexual because that's too much, but I just really enjoy punching punch cards. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that later. Alrighty. Oh, we got another book here. So the World Builder and Game Master Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Have you spent some time looking through this one?
I have.
So what sort of things would we find inside of it?
You know what? Exactly what it says on the front cover. They're really good. Savage Worlds in itself is it doesn't have a default setting, so it can be used to run anything. And one thing that this book helps you do is it gives you ideas for fleshing out your world and developing your campaign setting. It's pretty handy. It has a lot of good advice in it, and some other good GM advice.
Now, is the GM advice pretty agnostic, universal, or is it very specific to running Savage Worlds?
It's been a while since I read through it, so I can't
say for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm just flipping through the art. A lot of the art in this book are actually just photographs of various setups, and I recognize at least one of them as a game that Carl Kessler runs. He's pretty famous. I actually think he's got some writing credits on this book or this edition. He does very professionally well done modifications. Like this one here is a Ghostbusters meets the Goonies game. So you can see there's like Ghostbuster badges, there's Goonie badges. And I actually played in the Ghostbusters / Goonies game at Gen Con a couple of years ago. Got to play Mikey. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, so if you have, just as a quick side, if you ever have a chance to play one of Carl's games, it's very cool. I highly suggest that you do. Alrighty, and now I think we might be at the bottom of the barrel here. So this looks to be a GM screen. Alrighty. So I'll start with this. Actually, it's a mini settings book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, again, there is no standard Savage Worlds adventure. Oh, no, I went the wrong way. There's no sets adventure world, but there's a ton of different adventure settings. Some of them are more elaborate. I'm guessing this is just a book of a bunch of the smaller ones. So if you want to flavor your game to a certain way, this will give you some alternate rules or some flavoring to make it feel more like you are in that particular world.
Yep, some custom edges and the like. Maybe a fear rule like that for your more horror themed games.
All right, so it looks like there's 4 of them. Just looking at the table of contents, there's a Spirits of 1786, an Abyssal, Tesla Rangers, and the Lost City of Astla. Oh, very, very cool. And then we have, lastly, our DM screen, Savage Worlds. It is the landscape version, which I think actually this is like a mini landscape too. It's not even a full-size landscape,
right.
Because I know some people do not like having the barrier between you and the players. So the days of having the very high DM screen, again, like you would see on Stranger Things, if you've watched that recently, have kind of fallen out of the common, and now we're more into these. But again, this is like a mini one, and it has all the stuff that you would expect a DM screen to have on it: combat options and situational rules, damage injury tables, rate of fire, reaction tables, and then there's some vehicle critical hits and out of control table. And then we have some of our artwork from. Again, this looks like some of. I would use the word recycle. I don't mean that like a negative way. Just it's art that we have seen in other places in the kit or the book, which again I think works because that's kind of the theme.
I'm a definite fan of those mini landscape screens. I have one for Savage Rifts and also another Savage setting called the Sixth Gun came with one of that same size, and they're great. I mean, I really they just work for me.
Now, I am a fan as well. Again, my DMing style continues to evolve, but it's certainly different now than it was 5-6 years ago. And most of the time, the only thing I have behind my screen are blank note cards. Like that is majority of the time the only things back there, and I don't want people to know that in the moment. I want them to think that I've got papers and monsters and maps. So I just need something big enough to hide my note cards so it looks like maybe I got more going on than you realize. So as long as it can accomplish that and it gives me information, I'm all for it. So yeah, so I definitely, and this is sturdy. This is a well-made, the very thick, durable cardboard. This is one I think you're going to be able to use this for a while before it starts to fray. Eventually it will because it folds and everything that folds is eventually going to break. But this is solid. I think this is a very well made DM screen. So I would give it an A+ for the screen. So I think that's everything. So Brad, again, you've dug into it a little bit more than me. There's a few things that you saw first time. I know how much you paid for this because that's what I paid too through the Kickstarter. Do you think it was worth it? Would you do it again?
I would. I mean, I really like Savage Worlds. And its various settings. I spend far too much money every time they have a Kickstarter for things. And with I would. I thought everything in the kit was very well made. I thought it was a really good value.
All right. Is there anything that you would have liked to have seen that isn't in here, or is there anything in particular that maybe you'd want to call out? Because I kind of went through it fast. That like this is really cool. Someone who maybe hasn't dove into theirs yet, that they should make sure they pay attention to or dig into themselves.
No, I think you really the proportions. I mean, GM screens are very important. I think that was it. I don't have anything.
Okay, that's fair enough. So as I mentioned, I want to run. Get that in there. Some Savage Worlds on the podcast. I have the ETU, East Texas University campaign setting that I am hoping to run soon for both patrons and for the folks on the podcast. I still have plans to start a campaign for the show at some point in the near future. Unfortunately, I've been saying that for it feels like 4 years now. There's a chance it'll be Savage Worlds. I still haven't committed 100% to any game system. We've talked to a couple. I don't want it to be D&D, even though I love D&D. I want this next one to be something different. And Savage Worlds is probably top 3 of my options right now. Having this set doesn't hurt things at all. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I'd be great for it. I mean, Savage World is a good choice. It as long as you stick to that fast, furious fun. Otherwise, it can get bogged down. Particularly if your players can't do math for quick wound calculation.
Yeah, that's the one thing that
the math.
I will say the one thing. But one of the things that I have struggled with running it is how wounds work and like when you take damage versus being shaken and how they stack and affect each other. So that's something I would probably need some help with from someone at the table.
Yeah. Once you get a hand of it, it's pretty simple. It just, if you're, and the reason I say that is running Savage Rifts, you have characters who are throwing out horrendous amounts of damage, like upwards of 40 points of damage in a round. And, with incredible toughness levels, like 22, 23 points of toughness. So having to do all that math constantly because they're not willing to do really can bog things down. But I think everybody on our group would be okay with doing that for you.
Would you have a particular setting that you would be more or less interested in?
No, not particularly. I know you're very partial to running fantasy settings, and that's fine by me. I love Deadlands. I like Hell on Earth. I think that's a really interesting setting as well. Which is, if you're not familiar with Deadlands, it's Deadlands, sure, basically. Like, Deadlands has a huge behind the scenes kind of meta plot, and this is, Deadlands in like the, I don't know, maybe the 23 or 2400s. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline for that. But it's a very interesting game if you've ever had a chance to play it.
I have not. I think at one point in time, in fact, I might still have a source book. When Yada Quest went out of business a few years ago, now it's back, but it went out of business.
Yeah.
They were selling off a lot of their stuff fairly cheaply, and I picked up several Savage World source books, like 30% of cover price. One's like Frost something. It's basically, it's like the Ice World version, and I think I might have got Hell on Earth too, but I'm not sure.
Frost. Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't remember the name of it. There's a lot of Savage settings.
Yeah,
that they have out there.
Yeah, so I would have to figure out which one I want to use. There's a chance I would do my own sort of custom, but I love Deadlands. Like I've really enjoyed the times I've played that. I love the Wild West setting, just almost like a straight Western. But then you add in, so I think I would do it where it's just like a subtle amount of supernatural. Like it doesn't start off like, there's zombies and whatever what are the ones who come back? The Reckoners, oh my God, Reavers.
No, really, I can't.
There's a word, folks.
There is, and it's not the Reckoners.
No, but something with an R.
Big bads.
But anyways, they come back and
that's terrible.
There's a demon spirit inside the body, and you're always constantly fighting. The demon can take over. But yeah, so I would want it to be very subtle, like just basically a straight Western, but slowly inject supernatural into it. Again, and whatever our next campaign is going to be, it's not going to be a forever campaign. I'm looking at doing a sort of. I'm sorry?
They're Harrowed.
Harrowed, yeah, not with an R. Harrowed. Do not start with an R. No. I think I'm thinking of Revenant from D&D. That's what I was thinking of. But it would be like a self-contained story. I mean, I don't know how many sessions it would be, but it's not like we're going to play this until, it falls apart. We would have like 8 sessions or whatever. And I think that would be a lot of fun. But I think everyone would kind of know what was going on, which would lessen it a little bit, as if someone was actually new to that and thought we were playing a straight Western, and later they're like, wait, this is a zombie. So I don't know. I'm still thinking, but we probably, at this point, need to move on because this is a just off the mic conversation trying to help me figure out what's going on. So anything else you want to say about Savage Worlds before we wrap this one up?
I'm really looking forward to getting to play some more.
I'm looking forward to running. Brad, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your willingness and flexibility trying to get this done. And it seems like we've been green the whole time. So I'll have to check the stream, but I think we did okay tonight. Awesome. So, which is only somewhat more infuriating because now that means it will work sometimes, but not all the time. So we're going to think it's going to work and then it won't that particular time. It's almost better if it doesn't work at all because then I don't have to worry about it. But anyways, this has been Michael. from the RPG Academy. Thank you for watching now or in the future. And I think that's it. So we'll do a wave out, say bye-bye to everybody.